Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing Sea People, The Puzzle of Polynesia by Christina Thompson. Very interesting nonfiction book that I really enjoyed reading a lot about a topic that honestly I didn't know a whole lot about. And a lot of times those are the nonfiction books that sometimes will really blow me away when it's a topic like, that's interesting, but I've never really studied that. Let's see what I can learn about that when I see a book, and then it really blows me away. So this one was definitely an amazing read. Highly recommend it. I think the little subheader on this book does a good job of explaining what this book is all about. So let me read that and try to, instead of me trying to come up with my own phrasing for it. The quest to understand who first settled the islands of the remote Pacific, where they came from, how they got there, and how we know. So Polynesia, if you don't know, is kind of the area of the remote Pacific, and there's specifically a Polynesian triangle that this book refers to a lot. And it's the islands and land located from New Zealand to Hawaii to Easter Island and all the area in between those. And basically it was kind of the last area of the planet that had been settled that then was discovered during the age of exploration by the Europeans. So it's kind of like the last period of like filling in the map. And because of when these islands were discovered by Europeans, as science had begun to develop more, instantly there started to become all these theories about like, how did these people get to some of these most remote places on the earth? This book does a great job of trying to give the scale of like how distant these islands were from other settled areas and how befuddled the Europeans were. Like, how did some people end up on this random island where there's nothing in any direction for, in some cases, hundreds and hundreds of miles? This book kind of really explores how the world viewed the Polynesians themselves, what their own stories, their oral traditions said where they came from. And a big part of this book points out the Polynesians didn't have their own written language. It was completely oral history. And their oral history really blended the supernatural and the spiritual with the real world in a way that Europeans just couldn't wrap their head around. So it wasn't clear, is this actually a true story, or is this more of a religious spiritual story that doesn't have any truth to it? So there was debates on how much they could rely on these oral histories to decipher like, where did the Polynesians come from? Regardless of where they came from, how did they get these islands? They just couldn't understand how people in canoes, not these big massive sailing boats, but canoes could get to these islands that were hundreds of miles apart and away from civilization. So this book does a really interesting job of kind of exploring how the thoughts on this and this studying of this mystery happened over the course of the last few hundred years. And it's interesting that the book goes along because then you actually get Polynesians who are actually beginning to become, experts in anthropology, archaeology, and stuff like that, who begin to study this mystery of their own because they're equally as interested. Like, yeah, how did we end up here? I have my own theory based on the oral histories that my family and my tribe have told me, but at the same time, I'm not completely sure. I'd love to figure out this mystery. In some ways, like there was a desire, like we want to solve our own mystery, not have some outsiders figure it out. So it's very fascinating to see how this has been explored through archaeology, anthropology, sociology, studying the science behind canoes and what is possible and what is not possible. The Polynesian religion, language, how maybe hints on how like various words in Polynesian language might link them to certain other parts of the world, how that study has changed over a period of time. This book also explores like, here's some really wacky theories that people had that turned out wrong and how these theories were proved wrong. And here's our theories that we think might be true and how over time they were proved or disproved. So I won't get into what the final conclusions of this book are because I think it's fun going into this book maybe not knowing of all the items. But it's a very fascinating way to kind of explore how individuals over several hundred years have tried to tackle this mystery of where did the Polynesians come from. And it's very interesting. I really enjoy the aspect of the book that the Polynesians are heavily involved in this book. It's not just, well, how did these outside experts try to decipher this mystery? It's like, how do these outside experts try to decipher this mystery? And at certain points, how did they involve Polynesians? And then how did Polynesians try to solve the mystery on their own? Really fascinating read. Quick read. It's not a super long book. I read this. I was actually reading it on vacation, so I just read it in a couple days. But I think even if I had been on vacation, I probably would have finished this book in like a week or so, maybe 2 weeks the most, depending on what my work schedule was. Because it was a quick nonfiction read, and the way the chapters were set up, it kept you wanting to read. Because every time a chapter wrapped up and kind of wrapped up one mystery, Sometimes that mystery was like, the answer to this question is a yes. Sometimes the answer to this question is a no. And it's like, now that we know what we thought was true is a no, what's the next line of thought? So definitely recommend The Sea People, The Puzzle of Polynesia by Christina Thompson. Highly recommend it. In the comment section below, let me know a nonfiction book about a random topic in history that you've recently read that you found very fascinating, that you basically knew nothing about before you read the book. Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button. If you have, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate support. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time, and happy reading.